Welcome to this week's Prepare Like a Pro live chat show. My name is Chat McLean, and I'm going to update you on all things to do with our podcast this week, our strength and conditioning program, and also provide a power tip and a new topic that I started in last week, or a new segment rather, what I wish I knew 10 years ago. That would be specific more so to small business owners and strength and conditioning coaches. But let's dive straight into it. This week's topic for the footballers out there is all about how to improve your lateral speed. So I want to get straight into this topic. It's a passion of mine, something that I think I've certainly learnt a lot about over the last few years working in Australian rules football, but I also feel like the industry in Australian culture of athlete development, strength and conditioning, we've grown a long way as well, leaning on sports like rugby and over in America with sports like NFL. Being able to replicate those training methods and principles into the Australian rules side of things from a strength and conditioning point of view. So I think some of the key ones for athletes listening in, of course, practice is key. So what does that mean? Make sure that you practice your footwork in isolation, and you could just do that simply as part of an extended warm-up, especially drills like your fast feet, your ladder drills, where you're really focusing on putting weight on your toes and doing short, quick steps. So they're not high intensity in terms of the speed that your body's going through and the ground contact forces that you're doing, like a sprinting and heavy change of directions, like a cut, 45-degree cut can have. So they're really good to add in as your warm-up to get the body temperature up and get you moving and get your energy up. But they're also good for your performance, because when you're in those positions as a midfielder, like you're reading the boundary throw in, you want to be on your toes, on the move, and that way you can react sooner than your opponent and help you get to the ball. So not necessarily the fastest athletes on the football field win and are the fastest to the ball. It's also those that are most alert and are quick to react and are smart with their body positions, body positioning, leading into setting themselves up for success for the next possession. So practicing ladder drills can transfer well to your stoppage-like positions, as well as for forwards and defenders to be able to stay on the move. So if you're more a dynamic athletic type, then practicing your footwork is really key. And the focus from a technical point of view is just basically trying to keep your feet underneath your hips. So we're not doing a wide stance. We're trying to keep your feet underneath your hips so you can do short, quick steps. You can do them in forward motion, like a S-bend sort of motion. You can do them in a forwards backwards motion, like when you're forward acceleration and backwards pedaling. You can do them in a lateral plane both ways. So play around with different movement patterns, but certainly practicing your fast feet will have some benefits. Then from there, the next level up would be S-bends and zigzag patterns. So here we're practicing on being able to flex from our ankle, knee, and hip and drive through the ground. But we're not just moving in a linear fashion, you're actually moving at speed in a lateral fashion. So practicing particularly off that outside leg, being able to drive off and create that S-bands as phase one. Once you're getting comfortable with that, being able to swivel your toes and your hips, you want to progress that to a zigzag, where you're able to really stop, decel, practice your brakes, load the heels, and then have weight through your toes and be able to drive the ground away from you and focus on your first step, putting good force into the ground. So you get that separation. Because typically on a footy field, we'll find you do one step to get separation, two, and if you're lucky, you get space to be able to get 3 steps to get that breakaway speed. So practicing your first step, practicing your second, practicing your first 3 steps in isolation with little skill involvement is really, really important. Then the next level up would be cutting, as I mentioned before. So that would be like a 10-meter hard acceleration. So you're moving at speed, and then you basically plant your foot out in front to drive and do a sharp angle out at a 45-degree angle. And that would be more an offensive running pattern for those carrying the ball. So for your halfbackers, wingers, some inside mids that want to be able to take the game on and take on the tackle and using their power in their legs to get distance rather than their upper body strength, like a fend off, practicing cutting on both legs is really, really important. And the stronger and more powerful you are, to be able to continue your speed rather than decelerate and slow and then re-accelerate like a shuttle pattern. If you're really strong through your legs and you've got good reactive strength, you'll be able to just continue your speed and continue that momentum on from the axle. So practicing cutting is really, really important. Practicing drop step where you're crossing over your legs is important. So where you drop down and change your angles, that can be important for defenders particularly. They might be reading the play, reading the flight of the ball, and their forward is now running back towards the goals. So you'll be able to have your eyes up rather than turn and face the goals. You can keep looking at reading the play while you drop into the step and then shuffling out and keeping a good high speed. And then, of course, the open step for those doing like tick leads and being able to change your angles. So do a drop step, but then turn it into an acceleration phase. So practicing those. If you're not sure about any of these drills, check out our YouTube channel. I've got playlists of acceleration, change of direction drills. And for those that have already watched all our videos, it's on my list to do. Go to when I next do a field session, get the camera out and film a lot of these drills for you guys. So if that's something that would interest you, make sure to hit me up, and that will give me confidence that you guys are benefiting and also some motivation that you guys are benefiting from those videos. So hit me up on the DMs on some more drills that you would like, whether it be the fast feet, the S-bends, zigzags, or cutting, or drop step, open step. Let me know which one interests you the most. We can get quite specific with it, with the position that you play as well. Then from there, once you've built that good library of movement patterns, you understand what a successful crossover step looks like, how to do a shuttle well, how to decelerate quickly and re-accelerate, how to maintain speed and in more linear movement patterns. Once you've got all those and your quick feet, then we want to practice that in specific contexts. For example, small-sided games. So being able to react to an opponent and use your footwork is key. So there's no point doing all these drills as a footballer and then not practicing high intensity with a football in your hand. So take the game on in training, make mistakes. Remember, a mistake is only a mistake if you make it twice. So make sure that you're constantly putting yourself out there when you're doing the small-sided games. If you want to improve your lateral speed, then applying that in a drill like a small-sided game is the best way to not only improve your power, but also for you to be able to read the opponent and pick which movement you need to be able to go to. Do you cut to your left? Do you cut to your right? What shapes to use? So that's really important. Make sure you're adding high intensity in a context-specific scenario with your football training. And now that football clubs, most of them are all back at training, you've got a good opportunity to do that. From a gym perspective, the gym definitely has some benefits, but the most amount of energy you want to be putting your intensity and your intent to is on the field with change direction drills and then practicing your agility with football in hand and small-sided games. But from a gym point of view, strengthening up your ankles and your feet so you're able to absorb and have good resilience through those tissues around the ankle-foot complex to handle the loads that you're doing on the field, but also so we're running with full tires rather than flat tires, as it's using a car analogy. So you can have the best motor in the comp, but if you're running on flat tires, you're not going to go anywhere quick, particularly with lateral speed. So having good stiffness and strength around the ankle and foot joint will allow you to be able to produce those forces really, really quickly and continue your momentum as you're going and moving at speed. So that can be particularly important for people that maybe have a lot of power. You can jump really high. You've got a really good first step, but when you open up and you do it over more of a distance, like a 10-meter space, you're leaking energy with your flat tires. So work on your stiffening up your ankle and foot complex. We also have YouTube exercises on things that you can do around that, like heavy sled pushes are really good, both in a forward 45 acceleration position as well as lateral sled pushes. And there's heaps of different exercises that you can do, some isometrics, as well as some just general isotonic loading exercises to improve ankle stiffness. And then on the other side of the three key areas in the gym on how we can improve our lateral speed, our hips. So having pelvic stability is really, really important. So making sure that you're doing lots of hip lock work, not just in a sprinting upright posture, but also with your cutting work, where we're getting good amount of work moving onto the wall, for example, or moving onto a box, challenging your hip lock in that frontal plane motion. So moving from side to side. And then the third one pretty much is going to pop up everywhere, our core and trunk work. So making sure you're getting plenty of co-contraction work, challenge your trunk, particularly with your arms and legs moving. So your core can be able to maintain, while your arms and legs are moving at speed, you're able to maintain good abdominal posture. So long abs are when they're at their strongest rather than flexing forward. So you can practice on the field, like when you're decelerating, we want to hinge at your ankle, knee, and hip, flex at your ankle, knee, and hip, hinge at the hips, but don't fall forward onto your toes. Imagine you're walking down some stairs where you keep that chest up and your abdominals long, and that will help be able to, if someone tries to tackle, you'll be able to shrug them off better with long, strong abs, or you'll be able to produce more force by pushing them off with you. Whereas if you're slouched and not tight through your trunk, you're going to be easy to tackle and bring to the ground. So practicing posture is key. Make sure you've got good co-contraction. So your core should always be working with all these drills in the gym. And you want to be able to, at most times, be able to maintain a good upright posture with our change of direction drills. Hopefully that helped you in terms of how to improve your lateral speed for Australian rules football. If you have any more questions or queries, feel free to hit me up. If you found this topic was really helpful, let me know by messaging us on either Instagram or TikTok. I definitely find the feedback helps in terms of our weekly topics each week. So if there's a topic that you'd like me to present on next week, let me know in our DMs, or you can email me at jack@preparelikeapro.com. But in terms of the podcast this week, we have Paul Devlin, who I interviewed a couple of weeks ago. His episode will be published on Wednesday. So if you're a high performance coach, staff, or for athletes wanting to use data is obviously everywhere nowadays with smartwatches and smartphones. So we want to make sure that we're being able to apply that information that either a scientist at your club is using, or if you're tracking it yourself. So Paul has a good pragmatic and common sense about how to actually use the data to inform decisions. So make sure to listen to that one, as well as we talk about his athletic background, being a pro rugby player himself, and how he transferred from pro athlete to working as a strength and conditioning coach in elite sport and climbing the ladder of elite sport. So really a great chat, great interview, and make sure to tune to that one on Wednesday. We have Brianna McGrath on live for our Prepare Like a Pro live chat show on Thursday at 11 a.m. Australian Standard Time. She is looking after our Corfu Grammarians senior women's program for season 2022. So make sure to tune in to listen to Brianna. And then we have Vince Kelly, 1 o'clock on Thursday. And I've actually got the topic written down on my phone. So I'm just going to open that up. So we're going to discuss resistance priming and mental health in sport. So they're going to be a couple of key topics there. So make sure to tune in with Vince Kelly. That will be 1 p.m. Australian Standard Time on Thursday. And then our bite-sized episode, which we've moved from Sundays to Fridays, will be with Loris Bertolacci, who's been a high-performance manager across numerous AFL clubs. So make sure to listen into that 10 to 15-minute short snippet of an episode. If you love it, then you can listen to the whole interview if you missed that. We made that over a year ago. We've got a few opportunities at the Prepare Like a Pro Knox Football Club for their senior men and women's program. There's opportunities there. There's an opportunity with Upway Tacoma Men's Football Club, opportunity to get paid and also get our academy membership for free and learn how I do my programming for footballers. So you get mentored by myself. And we've also just signed on Heathmont Men's Senior Football Club. So if that interests you to work and look after a football club at a senior level and be their head strength and conditioning coach, make sure to hit me up on any of our socials, or you can email me at jack@preparelikeapro.com. With preseason starting, I'm really eager to sign the best person for the job over the next week, at the very latest over the next 2 weeks' time. So looking to try and sign someone and to bring them in before the pre-Christmas block. So get in contact. Even if you just want to have a chat with it, feel free to get in contact, send me an email, and we'll have a chat about the role. All right, let's get into this week's program, and then we'll go into the power tip as well as what I wish I learned 10 years ago. Okay, so here's the program. We're adjusting now with pre-season football clubs all coming back. So as I mentioned over the last couple of weeks, only complete the conditioning, as you can see in the title there, if you have no football training on that day. So for example, some people, you might not be able to train with your footy club on Monday night because of work. You can tick off the run session to keep you keeping your running loads consistent, which the key focus now with your strength and conditioning is routine. So we want to make sure we're not, like, off season is a great time to play, be flexible, move things around, and make the most of it. Now we want to start to, over this next 3 weeks before you get a break at Christmas, start to get into routine. The body loves routine. What's familiar, you're generally going to get the best results from, and you're going to recover well from it as well. So we want that routine so we get that consistency of training load under our belt. Build robustness as well as help with your resilience and injury prevention. In terms of the strength and power program, because you've gone back to football training, your kicking volumes are going to be up, your change of direction volumes are going to be up, your high speed running, your intensity. So I've naturally stripped back the volume in the gym. As you'll see, there's less exercises and less sets. However, now that you've built a good base over the last 8 weeks in the off season, we want to continue to develop your intensity, your max strength and your power. So make sure with those A exercises particularly, and even the Bs, you're really attacking every rep. Because we've brought the repetition down, we don't want to then also drop the intensity. Otherwise, we're going to not get a great stimulus and you're going to not get the most benefit out of this block. So we don't want to drop volume and intensity. So the program's looked after you. In terms of a workload point of view, you're probably not going to pull up as sore from the gym, but no doubt you will be from the field sessions as your body gets used to, hopefully not footy boots because you've been wearing them the last couple of weeks, but just getting used to training in a group again and just getting your football loads up. So because we've increased the footy loads, we're naturally bringing down the gym volume. A bit more of an emphasis as well on general power rather than strength and hypertrophy. So if you feel that you are in the strength and power group and you actually want to continue to gain a little bit more muscle, then let me know and I'll add you to the gainers group. Conversely, if you've been following the development program and you feel like you're ready to progress things along, depending on your age and your experience, just contact me and I can inquire and help you out and maybe upgrade you to the strength and power or the gainers program. So in terms of the theme of the week, as I mentioned, increasing the intensity, routine is key, and we want to make sure you adjust to your football load. So, keep consistent. I like to have 48 hours break in between your lower body loads days. So if you are changing anything, probably the key ones to change would be shifting. You could shift your Tuesday upper body session to Thursday or a Saturday, and you could shift your Friday lower body session, to Saturday, or certainly don't move that to Thursday and don't move that to Sunday, obviously, because we're training on Monday and you're running on Friday. As well, with the conditioning sessions, if your footy club only trains 3 times a week and never does any top-up running, use one of the sessions that I've put into the program on a Saturday to get a bit of top-up work. So if you want to improve your threshold ability so you can get a better 2K time trial, then absolutely go for one of those runs. I've also got heaps of hill sessions and fartlek sessions. So if that's something that interests you, hit me up. But overall, I won't go through each exercise, but should start to feel familiar now. Now that we've got football training sessions, I start to rotate the exercises over anywhere between 3 and 4 weeks. Some of them for the more compound lifts, like your box squat, stays in the program over the season. Same with things like your trap bar deadlift. So some of them will remain for a period of time. Trap bar deadlift will naturally start to come out when games come, but barbell box squat will stay throughout the whole season. So there's some stability there, so we can make sure that we can continually keep that intensity up and keep your max strength up. That's it for this week's program. Hit me up if you have any questions. If you want to work on your lateral speed, then make sure to hit me up as well to work with one of our strength and conditioning coaches. We've just brought on James Wolfenden. Geordie Loves moved from a junior coach position to a senior coaching role. And we've also got Caleb Morgan on board. So we've got a fair few coaches around Melbourne. And for those around the country, we also have Geordie Seller in Adelaide, Nilesh Murdy in Sydney. And Beatrice Devlin, she's over in Adelaide now as well, and at times she's in Perth. So if you're interested in working with any of those coaches, direct message me, hit me up, and we'll get you started. And things that you can develop will be things like your lateral speed and your sprinting. In terms of a power tip, don't let fear get in your way. Quick story on that: I actually bought this Rode podcaster well over 8 years ago. and never had the courage to actually use it and build a podcast out. It wasn't until COVID where I was looking for something to do. And originally it wasn't even going to be a podcast. It was just live chats on Instagram until a few people recommended to turn into a podcast. So I would, in hindsight, I wish I did the podcast a lot earlier. So that's a big learning that I've got from this one. If there's something deep down that I really want to do and I've got a passion for, you shouldn't let fear get in your way. Give it a go. You're going to make some mistakes, no doubt, and that's not a problem. You're going to learn from them. Like I said before, a mistake's only a mistake if you make it twice. So put yourself out there. You're going to benefit from it from the long term. Definitely a big believer in that. It's going to pay dividends. So don't let fear get in your way. Hopefully, you're already a go-getter and you're getting yourself out there and pushing the boundaries. But if you're in a mode right now, sometimes we need a bit of a friendly reminder. You're feeling a bit comfortable, everything's a little bit too easy, then make sure you take up a challenge and put yourself in the deep end, so to speak, to learn and grow. What I wish I knew 10 years ago, from a program point of view, you can definitely develop speed, strength, and endurance all at once. So 10 years ago, I thought you had to block things out. What I mean by block things out, if we're going to work on speed, we're going to do a specific program of 4 weeks where we're going to focus heavily on speed development, or 4 weeks on aerobic capacity, or 4 weeks on strength. And what I realized over time is that if you just do it in blocks, you're actually losing qualities from the last block. So what I mean is, if let's say we start with strength, then we move to more of a power block, and then we move to a speed block. If we haven't done some max strength work, the last time we did it was 8 weeks ago, we're losing a lot of that 4-week block that we gained. Whereas if we do a little bit of everything and have a key focus on each block, let's say we do a bit of strength, we do a bit of speed, but we have a bit more of an emphasis, an extra 10, 20% on power. Then we flip it the next block, we do a little bit more of an emphasis on endurance and a little bit more emphasis on speed over pre-season. You're still holding on to your qualities and still developing those qualities, but then you're just putting an extra bit of progressive overload on one specific one, and then you rotate through. And then in season, once you've built up a good base, you might rotate through every 3 weeks, for example, where you're touching on your speed, you're touching on your capacity, you're touching on your strength. So that's something I wish I knew 10 years ago. Hopefully that is some wisdom for some strength and conditioning coaches and some food for thought. And thank you for everyone tuning into this week. It's going to be an awesome week on the podcast. Like I mentioned, Paul Devlin on Wednesday, Brianna McGrath, our junior coach, on Thursday, and Vince Kelly at 1 o'clock on Thursday. So make sure to tune into those ones. Academy members, if you're new to the Academy, make sure to set up your login where you can find all our presentations, as you can see here. And there's a community section as well. So make sure to tune in to that community section where you can post in all your questions. There's one for coaches and there's one for footballers. So just in case you weren't aware of that, hit us up in a discussion forum and I'll do my best to answer that question over written form and then also add it into the weekly update. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.